Ahoy, mateys! Let's set sail back to the late 1600s, a time when the seas were ruled by pirates. This was the golden age of piracy, a period brimming with danger, adventure, and untold riches. Imagine a world where ruthless pirates roamed the oceans, plundered merchant ships, and amassed legendary treasures. The Caribbean Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the coast of Africa were their hunting grounds. Among these swashbuckling figures, one name strikes fear and fascination even today: Captain William Kidd. The golden age of piracy wasn't just about plunder and mayhem. It was a time when maritime nations battled for control of the seas. It was a time of exploration and discovery, as new trade routes were established and far-flung corners of the world were charted. But alongside these legitimate endeavors, piracy flourished. Privateers, authorized by governments to attack enemy ships, often blurred the lines, turning to outright piracy for personal gain. The allure of quick riches and a life free from the constraints of society proved irresistible to many. These maritime outlaws operated under their own code, dividing their plunder according to elaborate agreements and often clashing with each other in bloody conflicts. The seas were a dangerous place, filled with storms, disease, and the constant threat of attack. It was in this tumultuous world that Captain Kidd made his mark. Born in Scotland in 1645, he would rise from humble beginnings to become one of the most notorious pirates of his era. His story is a tale of adventure, betrayal, and the enduring allure of buried treasure. So join me as we dive into the legend of Captain Kidd and the hunt for his hidden fortune. Before Captain Kidd became synonymous with piracy, he was a respected sea captain. Born in Greenock, Scotland, Kidd learned the ways of the sea at a young age. He established himself as a skilled sailor and navigator, eventually making his way to the bustling port of New York City. There, he married a wealthy widow and became a prominent member of colonial society. But the call of the sea proved too strong to resist. In 1695, with England at war with France, Kidd was commissioned as a privateer. Tasked with hunting down enemy ships and disrupting French trade, he was given command of the Adventure Galley, a powerful 34-gun frigate. His mission was clear: to capture French vessels and seize their cargo for the crown. Privateering was a risky business, but it promised significant rewards. Privateers were authorized to attack enemy ships and claim a share of the spoils. However, the line between privateering and piracy was often blurred. Many privateers, tempted by greed and the lure of easy riches, turned to attacking any ship they deemed vulnerable, regardless of its nationality. Kidd set sail from London with high hopes and a letter of marque, a document authorizing him to engage in privateering. He assembled a crew of experienced sailors and set course for the Indian Ocean, a region teeming with valuable trade routes and rumored to be a haven for pirates. Little did Kidd know that his voyage would lead him down a treacherous path, ultimately transforming him from a respected privateer into one of history's most infamous pirates. Kidd's voyage to the Indian Ocean was fraught with challenges from the start. The Adventure Galley encountered storms, disease, and a mutinous crew eager for action and plunder. Months passed without encountering any suitable French prizes, and tensions on board the ship began to rise. Undeterred, Kidd pressed on, determined to fulfill his mission. He sailed around the Cape of Good Hope and into the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean, a region teeming with merchant ships laden with spices, silks, and other valuable goods. But finding French ships proved to be more difficult than anticipated. As time wore on and Kidd's frustration grew, he made a fateful decision. He decided to attack a treasure-laden Mughal ship called the Quetta Merchant. The Quetta Merchant, while not a French vessel, was carrying valuable cargo, and Kidd believed that he could justify his actions by claiming that the ship was sailing under a French pass. The attack on the Quetta Merchant proved to be a turning point in Kidd's career. It was a bold move, but one that would have dire consequences. The Quetta Merchant was a rich prize laden with silks, silver, gold, and other precious goods. But the attack also branded Kidd as a pirate in the eyes of the East India Company, a powerful trading company that wielded considerable influence in the region. News of Kidd's actions spread quickly, and he soon found himself a wanted man. The East India Company, outraged by the attack on one of their ships, put a price on his head, and the British government, under pressure from the company, and eager to distance themselves from Kidd's actions, declared him a pirate. With a bounty on his head and the authorities in hot pursuit, Kidd became a fugitive on the high seas. He knew that he could no longer sail openly and that he needed to find a safe haven. He also knew that he had to clear his name and prove that he was not a pirate, but a loyal privateer who had been wrongly accused. Kidd decided to return to the Caribbean, hoping to find refuge and perhaps negotiate a pardon. He sailed the Adventure Galley to the island of Hispaniola, where he scuttled the ship, which was by then in poor condition. He then purchased a small sloop, which he named the Antonio, and set sail for New York. believing that he could plead his case to the colonial governor. Upon arriving in New York, Kidd was immediately arrested. The colonial governor, under pressure from the British government, had no choice but to take Kidd into custody. Kidd was imprisoned and eventually extradited to England, where he was put on trial for piracy and the murder of one of his crew members. Kidd's trial was a sensational affair, captivating the public's imagination and generating intense interest on both sides of the Atlantic. Kidd maintained his innocence, claiming that he had acted within his rights as a privateer and that the attack on the Quetta merchant was justified. However, the evidence against him was strong, and the court found him guilty on all charges. On May 23, 1701, Captain William Kidd was hanged at Execution Dock in London. His body was dipped in tar and hung in chains along the River Thames as a warning to other would-be pirates. Kidd's execution marked the end of his tumultuous career, but it was only the beginning of the legend that would surround his name for centuries to come. Even before Kidd's execution, rumors swirled that he had buried vast treasures from his exploits. Some accounts claimed he'd left clues to their whereabouts in coded messages and maps. Others whispered of islands where chests overflowed with gold, silver, and jewels. These tales, fueled by imagination and a thirst for adventure, spread like wildfire and quickly became ingrained in pirate lore. Adding to the intrigue, several factors made Kidd's supposed buried treasure seem plausible. The Quetta merchant, his most lucrative capture, was indeed carrying immense wealth. Kidd had ample opportunity to stash portions of his loot on remote islands during his voyages, and the fact that he was apprehended before reaching any major port suggested he might have left his fortune hidden, awaiting his return. However, concrete evidence supporting the existence of Kidd's buried treasure remains elusive. No coded messages or maps definitively attributed to him have ever been verified. While he likely did bury some of his plunder, the sheer scale of the treasure described in legends seems highly exaggerated. Nevertheless, the lack of proof has done little to dampen the enthusiasm of treasure hunters worldwide. For centuries, adventurers, historians, and fortune seekers have scoured historical records, maps, and remote islands, hoping to unearth the truth behind Captain Kidd's legendary riches.